Welcome back to Star Narratives, the podcast. This is your go-to for accessible and relatable astrology designed to help you understand your inner workings and spiritual awakening. I'm your host, Natha Perkins. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Natha. I hope you had a wonderful solstice and full moon in Capricorn. We're going to talk about that Capricorn-Cancerian axis today. And we're feeling it because we're going through these final few months where we are anticipating Pluto going back into the sign of Capricorn. We have 2 Capricorn full moons happening back to back, which is an anomaly. And Capricorn is the powers that be, the traditions, the top-down authority. So if any of you listening have ever had any issues with tradition or powers that be or top-down authority, which is, let's just be honest, every single one of us, we're having to dive in and explore some of this on a deeper level. So we're going to talk about it. If you are new to this podcast, season 5 is where I go through a different facet of every single sun sign as the sun is in the sky. Astrology is a way to organize your psyche, to understand yourself a little bit better. So it's not just this abstract experience that you're having as you're trying to answer questions and make sense of what you're doing here at this time on the planet, because we are getting mission orders delivered. And the days of unconsciously sleeping through, going with the flow, following all the rules, and doing what you were conditioned to do are slowly coming to an end. And if you are on a spiritual awakening path, you're starting to really feel the constrictions of always believing what you're told and always doing what people tell you to do. And you're starting to look around and you're starting to say, this doesn't really fit anymore. I feel really different than I used to, or the world around me is responding to everything that I'm doing and thinking and saying in ways that are different. You know yourself that your ability to tune in to energy is getting stronger. You're getting intuitive hits. You are seeing signs. And even the least connected among us is having these kinds of experiences. Now, whether you're just brushing them off and saying, oh, it's a coincidence, or you're getting curious and trying to inquire deeper, what is going on? Well, that's totally up to you. Although if you're listening to this podcast, I bet you are a questioner and I bet you are seeking out what is new. So we're going to talk about that. And I use astrology to help you really get into that with yourself. Every single one of these episodes has a teaching in the first half and an astrology forecast for the week in the second half. If you're listening to this in the future, feel free to go back and listen to all of the teachings, and you don't have to listen to the forecasts. Or if you know that there was something that was really potent that happened in any given week, you can go back and listen to that forecast and say, now I know. Now I can see why that was happening. Because the planets are our map. They do explain to us this evolution that we are all doing in human form on the planet at this time. And you can certainly do this whole experience without a map, but it's easier to have one, isn't it? All right, if you like my style and you want to get a private reading, or perhaps you want to learn more astrology and bring some of the basics into your practice as a healer, a therapist, or a coach, or maybe you want to learn astrology and create a business from it, you can find me at electraastrology.com. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm putting these forecasts on YouTube. So if you are a visual person and you like to watch, you can find me on YouTube at Electra Astrology. I say we dive into the teaching. We're talking about Cancer and Capricorn today. All of these signs always have their match. We are looking almost as if we were on a seesaw. There's one sign over here, another sign over here, and we are always moving back and forth, back and forth. Ideally, we want to have a balance. So in astrology, we call these oppositions. And the problem with oppositions is that we are usually too heavy on one side. And we're working to have that perfect seesaw experience where we're up and down and up and down, and it's really enjoyable. And you're not sitting on the ground and you're not dangling in the air. So that's what we're doing with oppositions. And the sign of Cancer, we have the sun in Cancer right now. Sign of Cancer's second half, better half, worse half, depending on how you look at it, is Capricorn. So when we look at the archetype of Cancer, we are looking at that deep emotional side of you. I've been using the analogy of the queen as your emotional center. So if we were to look at tarot cards and say the Queen of Cups, and the queen is here to create a sense of groundedness in emotional matters. This means that your queen on a good day is tender, sweet, compassionate, intuitive. Your queen on a bad day is moody, resentful, withholding, feeling unloved, and feeling like she gives and does not receive. So that in and of itself is a spectrum, and that in and of itself is a seesaw that we're looking to balance out. Our healthy queen says, oh, I feel resentful. Why? Do I need to apply more love here? Do I need to apply more tenderness here? Do I need to not take it so personally over here? And so those are always questions that we are looking at exploring when we are in the realm of our emotions. We will explore this more over the next few weeks, but emotions are good information, but they aren't particularly trustworthy because emotions are so changeable. We have to ride that emotional wave, as we say. You may be sad at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, and by 12:45, you might be laughing, and the world is your oyster, and you really never know. We are working to really cultivate the strongest, most grounded, and dependable queen possible. So another way to look at this Cancerian archetype is through the lens of the mother. Think about how you mother, whether you are mothering humans or animals or houseplants, most definitely how you are mothering yourself. If we sidestep over to the mother archetype, we are looking ideally at a healthy mother who is attuned, who can tune into what is happening emotionally with those that we care for. And we get some guidance for how to help them and tend and nurture and care give and make sure that those that we love, those that we are responsible for, that they have their needs met. This is true also when we are looking at having to meet our own needs and how we are tending to ourselves and caring for ourselves. And this becomes particularly loud, this idea of how are you mothering yourself when we are looking at Capricorn. So take a second, close your eyes, and take some deep breaths into your physical body. How well do you mother yourself? How do you mother yourself? A lot of us learn how to mother ourselves through how our own mother tended to us. I'm a mother, and I know that mothering is really hard because I am also my own person. I'm also my own entire kingdom, and my kids are only a part of that kingdom. And yet, kids need an incredible amount of everything. Mothers, I think every mother, I would like to believe that every mother does her best. She does what she is capable of. She does the best that she can do with what she has. And when we look at the archetype of Cancer going into the fourth house and going back through the lineage, knowing that when we are working with mothering, the way that we were mothered, the way that she was mothered, the way that she was mothered, the way that she was mothered, we can go all the way back. And we know that we are carrying all of that with us. And so the way that we were mothered might have been imperfect. You might have had a mother that was overbearing and a helicopter mother. You might have had a mother that was cold and distant. You might have had a mother that was addicted and was unable to care for you. You might have had an angry mother, a mother that was distracted with her relationships, a mother that needed you to mother her. There's all of these combinations of the mothering that we had. And a lot of times we bring that into how we mother ourselves. And if we had less than perfect mothering, then usually our tending to ourselves is less than perfect. But I want you to sit for a minute and just think about that question. How do I mother myself? Am I kind? Am I attuned? Do I show myself love and forgiveness? Do I seek to meet my own needs before I beat myself up. And that goes hand in hand with the questions around what kind of queen you are when it comes to your emotions and dealing with the emotions of your kingdom. Everything that happens to you in a given day, everything that has happened to you over the course of your life, the way that you are using your emotions to inform you, reacting to things, using your emotions to hopefully problem solve, but maybe you're allowing them to create more problems. Are you a sufficient queen? Are you a good mother? And I'm asking you these questions not because I want to make you feel bad or I want to make you doubt yourself, but these are good to know as we are coming to know ourselves. It's good to get very, very honest with the kind of mother that you are, especially to yourself, and the kind of emotional ruler you are. What kind of queen are you to your kingdom? Because when we look at the archetype of Capricorn, which is right across the way, Capricorn is incredibly different. Capricorn is out in the world. We are no longer at home dealing with our emotions, feeling into those emotional waves. We are no longer afforded the ability to care for ourselves and tend to and nurture ourselves. We are not in our homes doing our tender, loving nurturing. And we are not as in control as, let's say, a mother might be in her own home or a queen might be in her own castle, because we are out in the world now and we are dealing with other people and we are dealing with the rules, the regulations, the tradition. Capricorn is where we seek success. And it is an earth sign. It is a cardinal earth sign, so it is one of the bosses. Remember that Cancer is a boss as well. Cancer rules by attuning and knowing what other people need and then being able to give it to them. I draw you in because I can make you feel better. That's how Cancer does it. Capricorn is a boss because it has integrity, it has experience, it has walked through hard situations, and it has become hardened. It's like a block of coal that becomes a diamond. Capricorn can be very intimidating energy because we have to be out in the world. We have to watch our back, we have to follow the rules, we have to do the right thing, and we have to be really good at it. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. Saturn sometimes is referred to as the tough love father energy. It is also the energy of the advisory committee, and it is also the energy of the government. So if you imagine the difference between a mother's love and a government's law, or the sweet tenderness of a feminine queen versus the hard, streamlined rules of the governing bodies. And although they all have to work together, they're very different. And so, in asking you these questions, what kind of mother are you? And what kind of queen are you? The other question that goes along with that is, what kind of advisor are you? What kind of governing body are you? So let's use the inner critic as this example. Take a deep breath. Tune into this present moment. What's your inner critic like? When I'm doing astrology readings for people, I will say, it looks like you have a pretty hard inner critic. Is that true? And everybody says yes. Some people do have louder, harsher inner critics than most. That is true. But I think that all of us on some level have that inner guiding voice that is trying to keep us safe, trying to write rules and laws and regulations that seem to be in alignment, but that ultimately end up falling a little bit short, because what we are accustomed to is being ruled with a threat of punishment. When we feel like we're going to get in trouble for making a mistake, we are more likely to follow the rules. And that is what our law system is based on. And in many ways, that is the energy of the planet Saturn. When we have Saturn transits, you have to take responsibility for what you have done, what you have decided, where you have fallen short, and you have to step it up. Even when we are looking at this idea of mastery, which is under the Capricorn umbrella, how does one become a master? By making many mistakes. If you go to hike a mountain and you are wearing the wrong shoes, you're going to get blisters, and you're going to have to hike with the blisters. You're going to have to hike in pain because you didn't wear the right shoes or you didn't bring protection. So that's why we cringe a little bit with this Saturn energy, because we know that if we don't do a good job, then we might get in trouble. Part of what is happening as Pluto has been moving through Capricorn since late 2008, we've gotten deep insight into the corruptness of the governing bodies. So if you were a kingdom and we were looking around and we realized our advisory committee is out to make money, they're out to grab power, they're out to do devious things, and they are colluding with other kingdoms, how would that feel? That is what we have come to see in a very clear level. Now, like you've heard me say, a lot of this stuff is so big that how am I going to sit here and change it? We're not. But what we will change is how we relate to our own governing body, that inner critic, our own personal advisor. What kind of advisor are you? What kind of inner critic do you have? What is it beating you up about? And I talked a lot about this in our Capricorn season back in December and January. So you can go back and listen. I'll dive into it on many different levels in those episodes. But this inner critic that you have that is always hounding you about something. What's it always on your case about? And how does it sound? And who does it sound like? A lot of times our inner critic sounds like our most demanding and rigid parent. The choice that we're all faced with as we are coming out of Pluto in Capricorn for good. Pluto will never be back in Capricorn in our lifetimes after this year. Are you being ruled by a punitive, power-hungry, angry, shameful inner critic? And if so, how does that inner critic work with that inner mother? And how does that inner critic work with that emotional, grounded queen? Now, remember, back to the seesaw analogy. If you are too heavy on the Cancerian side, where everything feels hard, your feelings get hurt, you're always trying to get love, or you are too indulgent, you are too attuned to everybody else, you're scurrying around trying to make sure that everybody has their needs met, you're giving, giving, giving. Where is your advisor? Where is your voice of reason? Where is your reality check? And where is that part of you that brings you out into the world, that helps you to master those places where you are weak? If you are out of balance, you might need a stronger advisor. You might need to really study this Saturn Capricorn energy and get a sense of how to have better boundaries with yourself, how to build a stronger foundation of reasoning, of taking responsibility for yourself instead of always taking responsibility for other people. Or you might be out of balance on the side of Capricorn, which can look like working all the time, being too invested in the rules, the laws, the regulations, being too trustworthy of outside government, and also too trustworthy of your inner critic. You might be somebody that listens to your inner critic. I can really tell when I'm around somebody that has an inner critic that is running rampant, because they sound a lot like, I'm such a loser. I can't believe I did this. I'm so embarrassed. I messed this up. Like, if that is what you find coming out of your mouth a lot, your inner critic is probably out of balance and you are missing that sweetness, that kindness, that love of your internal mother, of your internal emotional queen. So we're looking at how can we balance? Cancer is the mother, Saturn is the father. How do we balance between those energies? If Cancer is the home and Capricorn is life's great work, how do you come into balance between those two things? If Cancer represents your lineage and everything that has been passed down to you, including your history, your memories, and Capricorn is, what are you going to do to change the things that are dysfunctional? How are you going to build a more solid foundation of success for those generations that come after you? How do you balance those things? So those are really our big questions for this Cancer Capricorn axis. We had a full moon in Capricorn. We have another one at the end of the month. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but essentially we are really into the nitty-gritty of these questions. The fact that we have these two full moons in Capricorn right in the very year that Pluto is leaving Capricorn for good. We have all of these questions around our government. If you watch the news, you will see quickly and clearly that the governments around the world are floundering and out of control. This is a time period where questioning everything is important. Making sure that you don't slip into the fear side of things. Don't let your inner critic go on a rampage telling you about how you should be embarrassed, you should be ashamed, you messed this up, you're a bad person. And make sure that you're not letting your queen go into a downward spiral. Oh my God, this is so sad. What am I going to do? Nothing's going right. Nobody loves me. We're all in danger. You have to really work right now to maintain this equilibrium of being an advisor that is in integrity, that is balanced, that is considering fairness and justice above all else. And you have to cultivate your internal queen that says, I sit on my throne. I am grounded. I listen to my emotions as they come in. I am discerning about what to take and what to leave. I use my emotions to inform me without getting swept away in them. You're making sure that your Aries and Mars boundaries are on point. You are learning to advocate for yourself and listen to your gut instinct. You are making sure that your Taurus gardens are producing as much fruits, vegetables, flowers as possible. Your gardens are healthy. Your physical body is healthy. You are making sure that your Gemini Mercury mind, your messenger, is bringing you the right messages and not getting caught up in garbage and gossip. And now you're making sure that your queen is strong and grounded. Your mother is attuning and compassionate, knows when to be soft, and knows when to step in with power. We will continue on over the next few months talking about the sun, your king, about Mercury in Virgo, your worker, etc., etc. But we know that right now, this is it. We are working on creating the strongest, most powerful leadership team possible. And this month, the advisor and the mother or the queen. And we are pulling in all the stops. And we really have no other choice. So with Capricorn, Earth, Cardinal, Saturn, 10th house. We fortify those archetypes with logic, with reality, and with discipline. We develop strong protective responses, and we watch to make sure that our inner critic is not beating us up, because being punished is no way to ensure loyalty, is it? We are loyal to the government, to the authority, to the leadership that respects us and that honors us. And when we are fortifying our queen or our mother, we're understanding the need for safety. We are working on both giving and receiving so that things feel balanced. And we are tuning into our intuition. And we know that we are out of balance when we are being moody, easily hurt, we're giving too much and refusing to receive, or we become gloomy or melancholy or hopeless. A hopeless, melancholic mother is not a big support system. And we know that a needy and demanding, withholding queen is not to be trusted. We don't wish to serve a queen that makes us walk on eggshells. This is your opportunity, while you're thinking about it this week, to tune in if you were going to be the very best advisor and the very best queen and mother to yourself, to your own personal kingdom. What needs to change? Deep breath. Okay, let's talk about the astrology of the week. So last week we had the sun, Venus, and Mercury all enter into Cancer. But before that happened, they were all perched at 29 degrees of Gemini, which created a square to Neptune. Last week, the energy was really weird. If you felt unstable or confused, or there were old stories that were rising to the surface, or even a question between what was fantasy and what was reality, we could blame those transits for that. And then we had to go through that full moon on the Cancer Capricorn axis. We have two full moons in Capricorn this month back to back. So this one was at 1 degree of Cancer Capricorn. The next time we have a full moon, it will be at 29 degrees of Cancer Capricorn, which is the final degree of Capricorn. And Pluto has had to cross back and forth over that degree several times. It's still not done. It's heading back one more time. So what does that mean for you? These themes that I have been talking about, these questions, how do you feel? What are the feelings that inform you? How are you tending to and nurturing yourself? And what have you learned about your relationship to government since late 2008 when Pluto moved into Capricorn? Think about your relationship to the governing bodies, your inner critic. Who were you? Were you a rule follower? Were you a people pleaser? Were you a relentlessly hard worker? Were you successful? Did you lose your success? What has happened to you since that year, we'll say 2009? What have you learned about the balance between feeling, safety, security, your emotions, your mother, your internal queen, and that Capricorn side of you that thinks it needs to follow the rules, thinks it needs to have a certain reputation and a certain amount of money and has to achieve? Because ideally, if you've been paying attention, you have gone through a massive metamorphosis in these areas. It will continue, but there's something potent about this month that it's coming to be more clear. It's like you're finally able to scrape the ice off of the windshield and actually see what's in front of you. So be curious about that. On the 26th, we're going to have Mercury and Venus making some connections. Mercury, your messenger. Now, remember, your messenger in the sign of Cancer is going to be very emotionally communicative, meaning that your mind might be easily impacted by the way that you're feeling. You might find yourself on what feels like a roller coaster because Mercury likes to move quickly and get through the story, but Mercury has the gift of being emotionally detached, but not in the sign of Cancer. In the sign of Cancer, your mind can be very easily influenced by things that trigger your emotions. And remember, most marketing and most media is designed specifically to trigger some sort of emotional reaction from you. So try not to be a pawn in that game and understand that things that emotionally trigger you need a little bit of ground, need some foundation. And Saturn at 19 Pisces is going to help with that. I like to describe Saturn in the sign of Pisces as like the CEO that goes down to Costa Rica and does medicine journeys with ayahuasca. The tight, buttoned up, black and white, success-driven CEO suddenly has these transcendent experiences. And then this energy can see things from a higher perspective and can see the real reality of things. So allow the real reality to inform you as opposed to your emotional reactivity. Venus at 11 degrees of Cancer is going to be in a square to the nodes. Venus rules the South Node right now in Libra. So there's going to automatically be some tension. But I do like to look at planets that square the nodes as a concept around missed steps. So when it comes to letting go of your Libra judgments, need to be exceptionally beautiful and pretty in order to have value, need to be nice and have everybody love you in order to have value. Remember, with Libra, we're always trying to attract things to us. And we learn early on that we can attract things to us through certain avenues. And we're learning right now that those avenues might feel empty, they might feel vacant, they might no longer have the same power that we used to apply to them. And so we're letting those go. And we're moving toward the North Node in Aries, which is a deeper focus on what we really feel passionate about, attracting things that feel powerful. And the missed steps over here are representative of Venus in Cancer. So examine your emotional connection to your judgments, to your judgments about self, about your body, about your worth, about your finances, with the attempt to understand that they are emotional in nature and emotions flow and new emotions replace old emotions. So we can't really count on emotions, but we have to acknowledge that we do get emotionally attached to things. And sometimes we need to release our emotional attachments in order to release other hooks in our energy. Emotions can also really make us fierce. They can really push us in the direction of what is right for us. If we're using emotions to understand what is right and what is wrong, then we can really move into our own power in an easier way. On the 29th, Saturn is stationing retrograde. That means that this whole week, we are going to be under that influence of that retrograde station. So to go back to that analogy of the CEO that starts doing medicine journeys, look at your own internal advisor. So if your internal government, your inner critic, your superego rules with the iron fist of a dictator, or rules also with anxiety, that's another way that the inner critic can really come in and apply pressure, is to bring you stories about everything that can go wrong. See whether there are spiritual perspectives that you can apply to your rulership that can help shift some of that need for control. And remember that your inner critic controls because it is trying to keep you safe. So a lot of times we do find safety in our spiritual practices. That is where we find a tranquil peace without our human mind trying to find the answers for everything. We give it up to our higher power and we say, help me understand this. Help me find a solution to this. So as Saturn is stationing, this is a week where we're asking for a higher perspective to all of our traditional, long-standing, written in stone belief systems that make us feel like if we don't follow tradition, we're screwed. And then finally, we see this week with Ceres and Venus in an opposition, both at 15 degrees. So remember to bring your body into it. Your body has all the wisdom. Ceres is in Capricorn right now and has been for a while. And that is the reality check around, what is my body telling me? Ceres and Venus really like each other. They have a lot in common. And if you can use your physical body to help you determine your emotional decisions, then you have a partnership that is really valuable and solid. All right, I hope this was helpful. I will see you all next week. Thanks so much for spending time with me. You can find me all over the internet or at electroastrology.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with your friends and help them discover us. And if you are the kind of person who likes to leave reviews, I'd greatly appreciate it.